Five, four. Hey, here we go. We're live. All right, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. We are at literally hump day. There's exactly, 107 days since a certain team that will remain nameless blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl. And we have 107 days. Yeah, we have 107 days until the start of the regular season. So, but I'm going to look at it much more optimistically than that. I'm going to look at it. We are about a month, 3 weeks away from the beginning of training camp. That's how I'm looking at it. So that's less than 100 days. And once training camp starts, that is Saints news every day until hopefully February. And that's the best way to look at it. So I'm your host, Alan Ulrich. I'm here with my partner, Sean Williams. And how are you doing tonight, Sean?
Fantabulous. We are at halfway point, 107 days following the Super Bowl and 107 days to the kickoff of the 2017 season, the Super Bowl season. Did I say that out loud? Okay. We want to thank Fan First Productions. We'll invite everyone to go on to iTunes and YouTube and subscribe to our channels. We are now, just this afternoon, as a matter of fact, we reached 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Also, if you see on Facebook, on Twitter, on all the social media outlets, the fantastic new promos that we have, we want to thank our friend Mr. Joel Smith for finding a reasonable way to not offend people or hurt people by promoting our faces and the show. He found a.
I apologize greatly for that. Yeah, my face is built for radio, so I mean, I apologize greatly for that.
Well, it beats that way sometimes. How are you doing, Alan?
Oh, I'm doing all right. It was once again, just we're about to go on the air, and we're sitting there talking about, oh, what the heck are we going to do this week? What kind of Saints news? Sure enough, we have the owners meeting in Chicago, and we also have a couple of Saints players who from the 2009 Super Bowl champion team have been elected to the Saints Hall of Fame.
Is that me and you?
No, no. We have the OTAs.
We haven't got our invitations yet.
No, I'm afraid we have not. And we also, the OTAs start today. Now, of course, the OTAs, you only have one day. It's media day, so that's going to be really the Saints News Day, which I think is going to be Thursday. But other than that, I mean, so there's football stuff going on, so we still have things to talk about. But I think you want to talk about what's that?
I'm sorry. Before we get off on all the Saints news, and I think you were segueing into this.
Yes.
Real quick, I wanted to go through the itinerary that we've been handed. As you guys know, partnered with several other entities in the Future Stars League with our pal Mr. Joe Horn and Terrell Bean. And we thank those guys for the opportunity to be a part of something that is so incredible and so worthwhile. We have received the itinerary for the All-Star Weekend, which will be taking place in Alexandria, Twin Cities, I guess you call it, on Thursday, the 15th of June. There will be at what is going to effectively be ground zero for the weekend, Best Western Conference Center in Alexandria, Louisiana. There is going to be Joe Horn autograph session from 3:30 to 4:30, and media day for the athletes. And KALB Channel 5 is going to be covering the autograph session and media day, and DJ Shan production will be on site for this event as well. That's Thursday the 15th. On Friday the 16th, the teams will be participating in walkthroughs, and everyone checking in with into the Best Western that day as well. There'll be interviews. There'll be time for interviews set aside with local radio stations and media. And at 5 p.m. at the Best Western Conference Center, the team banquet for the game, which will be held on the 17th. And on that Saturday the 17th, game day will be at Tioga High School. There will be a team lunch, team pep rally, once again with DJ Shan, a tailgate party open to the public, welcome from 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Gates open at 5. Game starts at 6 p.m. That will be the Mississippi All-Stars and Louisiana All-Stars. And I and one of my running buddies, Mr. Puff Daddy, Mr. Jamie Fox, will be joining me at Tioga High School on this Saturday, the 17th, for the All-Star game. And also, I was asked to mention that there will be a hangout with the Future Stars staff and Joe Horn at the Best Western Hotel after the game by invitation only. Doors open at 10 p.m. with DJ Shan Production presiding over the event. We want to invite all of Who Dat Nation to come out and support these young men in what they're doing, and these older guys are putting this on. Please come out and these kids to make this a successful event.
Absolutely. Please do go out there. It matters a lot to these kids to have the opportunity to have that NFL type of experience. Come out there, the pregame festival, just coming out, running out in the field, hearing the crowd cheer, and go out and play a game, a football game, show off their skills, and feel like they got something, because for a lot of people, high school really becomes the end of your football career, but these kids are hoping they take the next step. Let's help them get there. That's what the whole point of this camp is, helping them get them to the next level. And even if they don't succeed at the next level, give them the life skills that teaches them their hard work. With hard work comes success. And with that success, you can be successful in almost anything you set your mind to. If it's not sports, it's in the business world. It's in, it's starting a new business on your own. It's doing anything in life, schoolwork, whatever. So yeah, please go out there.
I want to attest to one thing when it comes to this endeavor, this doing. Several years ago, I think about 5 years ago, as a matter of fact, my son played on a baseball team that was coached by Jace Robertson of the Duck Dynasty guys, and there is no one better in this world that you could possibly want for your children to have as a role model and someone to mold your young people than Jace Robertson. I can say the same exact thing for Joe Horn, his staff, and Terrell Bean and his staff as well. These guys absolutely, their only interests are what is best for these young men. And if you look at things the way that they are nowadays, these kids to further their athletic careers, so to speak, that doesn't start when you reach high school. Nowadays, that's something that starts when you're in middle school. I've noticed some of these kids have their own recruiting pages on Twitter, and they're in the 7th grade. And I'm not knocking that. Please don't get me wrong. But I mean, that's just where things are now. It's something that you work just like anything else, it's something that you get out in front of, and that you work to benefit yourself. Me personally, I'm anxious to see Gavin Richard. He's a young man that came up to West Monroe for our tryouts. He's a running back. I'm anxious to see what this young man does. I think and expect big things from him.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it'd be a great time. I really do. Um, okay, so you want to go ahead and start talking about the owners' meeting in Chicago? Because every time I hear the word Chicago, I'm gonna start talking about the band. I'm start talking about Peter
Oh,
Cetera and Terry Kath and Robert Lamb, Danny Serafin, Jimmy Pankow, Lee Lockney, and Walt Perazetta. Oh, and then we can talk about Lotto Devil Olivier. Just
you know I
totally
love
butchered the
what's
percussionist
to
name. Yeah,
me. Kind of
at
love
Chicago 17. We can
lasts
talk about
forever.
question 67, 68, 25, 64, like number songs. Make Me Smile, Color My World, Just You and Me. Uh,
I think we better stick to the owners' meetings. Uh,
oh yeah.
the only way that these owners meet, the only reason that we bring these up is the relevance of them to New Orleans Saints fans is proposed changes to the rules and regulations that
Mhm.
these teams play under during the season. This is when they come to the forefront and when they're addressed. Obviously, there's three major things that they're looking at. Uh, Number one is the celebration. It uh, it it's it's all judgment. I don't think there's any point in wasting time with that. Uh, and that brings us to Alan's personal favorite. The the overtime has been changed yet again, um, from a 15-minute period to a 10-minute period. What say you, Mr. Ulrich?
It was done for TV. I mean, that's why they did it. They did it for TV. You're starting to have some overtime periods now because you allow each team is allowed one possession, then it goes to sudden death. I take that back. I'm sorry. Each team is allowed one possession unless you score a touchdown. Then that's become sudden death. Um, so what they found in these past few seasons is, they allow that first field goal and the other team kicks a field goal or they don't score at all. And they've been having this overtime period go on for almost a full 15 minutes and screwing up TV time, especially that's a noon game or 1 o'clock game if you're on the East Coast. And it's screwing up double headers. Shrinking it from 10 to 15 minutes, what good does that do? If you really want to fix the overtime rule, and they've already done this because Brett Favre didn't get his shot at the Super Bowl in 2009, or rules to being just one possession each. Each team gets one possession, regardless if they score a touchdown or a field goal. Each team gets one possession, and if you score a touchdown your first possession, then another team has to score a touchdown. Then it goes to sudden death. That's the easy fix, and you leave it 15 minutes. But for the NFL, they've got advertisers screaming at them, hey, man, I paid X amount of millions of dollars to be in the first quarter of a game, show up, and half the game isn't even being seen around the country because we have to watch a pillow fight between the Jets and the Bills that's going into overtime. You know, I mean, and it's a pillow fight between two paraplegics. That's how bad it is.
Oh, we just offended the paraplegic.
Oh yeah, we insult everybody.
Oh.
I don't care. But
to be honest with you, if it was left up to me, I don't care if it's a preseason controlled scrimmage or if it's the Super Bowl. You play until there's a winner. That's just my opinion, and that's where I sit on that fence. I always have, and probably always will. I don't think that you're accomplishing it. Back that up. I don't think that. Well, as far as the TV, yeah, maybe you're doing something. In terms of the game itself, you're being really and truly counterproductive by shortening the overtime period.
It's just like they
Because
shorten the halftime period too, because again, get the game rolling. We have to, because I promise you, they didn't shorten the time between timeouts, television timeouts. They're going to make up that time. That game is still going to go on till 3:15 if it's a noon game in the Central Time Zone, because they're going to sell more ads. They're going to fill the time with ads. That game is not going to be any shorter. It's just, as far as the league is concerned for television time, they want to get these games going and over with so the next game is starting and there's no overlap. When I was a kid, the games used to start at 1 and the next game would start at 3, so you always missed the first half of the game while the other game was finishing. Then they moved it to noon to 3. Now we've noticed that it's 3:15, 3:20, 3:25 before the afternoon game starts, and that's all because of television. It's the same reason why we're punished by having to sit through these Thursday night games, which is terrible football, terrible matchups. You get games like Cleveland against Jacksonville. It's horrible.
The futility.
It's horrible football. So then they fix it, quote unquote, by doing these color rush jerseys, which, when you had the Bills play, no, it was the Titans play Jacksonville, and it was like Mr. Spock versus Captain Kirk. You had the blue against the gold jersey. It's just horrible. Or the colorblind game with Buffalo against the Jets. We had red and green, and all the colorblind people saw was gray. It's just. And I don't mean that to be ugly. They did a story on that. I'm not making fun of people, because I know people who are colorblind, but they said because of that color rush game, this is how the game looked to colorblind people. So it's all.
I'm colorblind.
Yeah. Are you really colorblind? But for a lot of people, especially a severe case of colorblindness, it looked like it was gray. You couldn't tell one team from the other because of the color combinations.
You honestly couldn't. I can attest to that. One thing that I like to see that the owners approved is they mandated that moving forward there will be an increase in the IR with designation to return from what was last year. You could allow one person. Moving forward, you can allow 2 people.
We're slowly but surely going back to the rules that used to be in play in the 70s and the early 80s with injured reserve. Injured reserve back then was all of it was recallable. You could put it like, let's take a player like Sheldon Rankins last year. You could theoretically put him into reserve, freeing up that roster space, and you could keep him on IR until he was ready. Then you just activated him. That's the way it worked, and you just had to make a corresponding roster move to activate this guy. And the reason why they changed the rules back then was because coaches like George Allen, think of coaches of the era, Lou Saban maybe, people like that would start playing with the IR designation. they would take players and put them on IR and take them off IR as a way to stash a guy. He has a mysterious injury, so he got put on IR. It could be a groin injury, a hand injury, something like that. And you could keep them on your roster, and they could still practice and everything else, but they couldn't play. So you didn't have to cut a guy. You could hold on to him and wonder if he was worth anything. If he really wasn't, then you could cut him or deactivate him or whatever you wanted to do with him. That's why the rules were changed, because teams were playing with the IR designation. So they came with once you go on IR, you're gone for the year. And then they went up with the whole, but you can have 45 active on game day, because the rosters were smaller back then, 45 active on game day, but a total of, 53, I think. Expanding the roster, all these little games that they try to do to make up for what they used to do with IR. You're going to see more changes. I think with the emphasis on concussion and player safety, they're going to go back and loosen it up to allow more players to get put on injured reserve, so you can move guys in and out a lot easier without having to cut somebody because a player has a concussion, and a concussion protocol requires that guy to miss 2 to 3 weeks until he passes the test.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think that we may be approaching a point where the league should revisit that 50-man or the game day, what is it, 45 man limit, or getting close to a time when the league will revisit those limits?
I've heard it brought up, and then it's tabled every time. I think a coach and an owner like Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft or Jerry Jones are going to be the one that's going to have to push for that roster expansion for it to really happen. In my opinion, I think if they go to, say, a 60-man roster, I think you would do that in conjunction with an 18-game season. You'd have to do that. You'd have to get the bodies. Sean Payton plays at the roster all the time. We talked about this last year with Khalif Barnes. He was on the roster, then he got cut on game, right before the game. Then would come back on Monday and get cut again. Well, the reason why they did that was because they had to have enough guys to run a practice. With Armstead being hurt, with Unger, missing every other practice because of his foot, with Streif, even though Streif was healthy, with Streif coming in and out of practices, they had to have enough people on the field to run a practice. And that's why you see a guy like Khalif Barnes come and go. Okay? And it was just so you had somebody to practice. And if you go to an 18-game schedule, you would have to increase the roster size. I would think so. I'd like to get rid of the whole.
What do you think the likelihood of that is?
Again, it's going to have to take a consortium of the new ownership. It's going to have to take a Jerry Jones, Daniel Snyder, Robert Kraft would all have to form an alliance to get that going, because the old line owners, which there are fewer and fewer of them now, because unfortunately so many of them are passing away. The old line owners aren't going to go for that kind of stuff. They're not going to want an 18-game schedule, but Roger Goodell wants it. He wants expansion into England. He wants expansion in Mexico. He wants to make the NFL international, and a way to appease that is to go to an 18-game schedule with multiple bye weeks, that kind of stuff. So you have football essentially from August till late February.
Awesome.
But it's tough on the player, though. It's tough on the player. So that would have to be part of it. Drew Brees talked about it on the radio the other day. I mean, a 16-game schedule is
Yeah.
tough on players, on their bodies, because, quite frankly, you're hurt. From week one on, you are playing hurt, and these Thursday night games are not helping, because you have a shorter time frame. Did you just disappear? Oh, you're back. Okay. You have a shorter time frame now to recover from a game, and that's why the games suck. Aside from some of the matchups, it's why it looks so sloppy, because these guys really are not fully recovered from the previous game. I don't know, but you're going to see that kind of stuff. I would not be surprised to see the NFL expand to, Sunday night. If they could get on Saturday, they would play Saturday. Tuesday night football, things like that. You're going to see all kinds of ideas. So, with multiple buys, that'd be the way they pass that. And then you'll have an 18, 20 game schedule, that kind of thing.
I think the potential that's there for be made, for lack of a better
absolutely
to use.
Absolutely.
I think that the owners will eventually sign off on that.
Well, that's why I said it's got to be the
reason for that.
It's got to be the new line owners, because the old line owners, the ones that are left, the McCaffrey family, Tom Benson, let me think, who's left? Robert Ursay in Indianapolis. Wow, there's not many left anymore.
The Modells?
Modells doesn't have the Browns anymore. I mean, not the Browns, the Ravens. Art Modell's passed away, and someone else bought the Ravens from him.
I know
but
that
the Browns still own
Al Davis's son.
Yeah, Al Davis's son still runs the Raiders. But you've got Mike Brown still runs the Cincinnati Bengals. There's not many left anymore. I mean, Joe Robbie is long gone, and they've had like 7 different owners of the Dolphins since then.
Even this over
the Maras still own them. I think the Mara family, still owns the Giants.
Mr. Rooney passed away
Mr. Rooney passed away, but you still have. I think you have one of the Rooneys. I think either his grandson or his son is still in charge. So you still have the Rooney family in charge of the Steelers. But
now I'll use that to preface the subject for something that we're going to talk about, because I continually get this question from people during the week, and I do want us to breach this subject at some point in the future. Exactly where does this organization go after Tom Benson?
Gail.
That's something that I don't.
No, that's what it is. According to the documents and everything that's been signed, it's Gail Benson. Gail takes over. Now, what happens from there, I have no idea.
You said Gail. I thought you said hell.
Oh, no, Gail, his wife. His wife has control of the team. I mean, what happens after that, I have no idea. But Rita's out. Rita's gone. His adopted.
A blunt in the
parking lot.
Did I say that out loud? I apologize.
No, there's quite a few rumors about Rita.
Moving right along, the last of the major storylines coming out of Chicago, and I would like for you to explain to me exactly what the relevance of this is, because for the life of me, I can't figure it out. And had no less than 5 people today reach out to me and say, I cannot wait to hear how Alan explains this so it'll make sense to me. No pressure. and that is that moving forward. Well, let me back up. Up until now, there has been two during the training camp process. There have been, for those of you who are not aware, there have been two major roster trimming, so to speak, exercises. As of right now, the team's roster is at 90 players. That's allowable up to, I think, beyond the second preseason game.
After the third preseason game. First cut down's the Tuesday after the first, or the Sunday or the Tuesday. No, it's the Tuesday after the third preseason game. And then
at that point, the roster had to be the league mandated
75.
75, and beyond the 75, 1 week later had to be to the league mandated 53 minute limit. Mm-hmm. Well, the owners have agreed and set forth that basically, long story short, they're eliminating the whole 75-man cut is eliminated, and you will be seeing that there will probably be some date closer to the middle of that where the 90-man roster will go from 90 to 53 in one fell swoop.
Yep.
Now, before I get your take on this, am I to understand? I explained it to someone today. If I'm not mistaken, the way that I understand it, teams can still trim, cut, so on and so forth at whatever pace they deem is necessary, just as long as they're at these league mandated limits by such appointed time. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. You could cut. They cut somebody today or yesterday. You cut somebody to bring somebody on. I mean, you can make adjustments throughout the whole. Once the off season starts, you can cut people left and right and sign people on and everything else like that. There's nothing to stop you from that. You ready for this one? Why they got rid of that cut?
Sure.
That cut after the third preseason game? Because what you found, let's say it's preseason, it's the regular preseason for the Saints. You have the first game was a Saturday night. Second game might have been a Friday night to Sunday night, depending on if it's a nationally televised game or not. Third preseason game could be in that Saturday, that same kind of window. So let's say you play first game Saturday night, second game Friday night, third game Sunday afternoon or Saturday night. Okay? You got to make your first cut on Tuesday. Your next game is Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. There are no games on Sunday. So you were cutting people, and you might pick up somebody, you might not. And if you pick up somebody, they've got 2 days, essentially, to learn your system enough to try and win a job. Think about that linebacker I think we traded for or whatever from Miami last preseason, right after the third preseason game. I can't think of his name right now. It escapes me. Dion. I can picture the guy, but think about him. And he got to play in one game, that fourth preseason game, and then he was cut. Okay. So I think what the owners basically said was, listen, those guys who get cut in that first cut, which most of those guys, I mean, unless it's a Champ Bailey or someone like that, most of those guys who get cut in that first cut, you never hear from them again. So what they figured to make it fair or give them a better opportunity to latch on with another team, cut them all at one time because of the deadline where you have everyone has the same amount of time to get ready. And remember, the game regular season starts on Thursday nights now, not Sundays like it did back in the day. You now have, in this case, New England against I think they play who they beat in the the AFC Championship that year. I forgot who the Patriots play in opening weekend. Anyway, you have that Thursday night game. So once that cut happens and they have to have their roster at 53 by Saturday, it gives teams all an quote unquote equal opportunity to look at all the players that were cut to kind of pull for your practice squad, or, in the Saints case a couple of years ago, look for another kicker, that kind of thing. So that's my thinking why they did what they did. Give all those players an equal shot by having all these teams have to make their 53 roster by Saturday. Now they all have to look at a team to look at these players out there and say, okay, this guy got released. He's an upgrade over what we have on our team right now. We can pull him out rather than have that first little wave of players that really aren't going to make any roster anyway, get released and kind of disappear. That's my thinking on this. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. You always make sense.
Not always.
It's just a matter of, yeah, it always makes sense. It's just a matter of whether we're up to the level to understand that sense or not.
Well, I mean, you think about that the way the preseason is gone now, too. I mean,
yeah.
They play one or two series game one, the starters. Game two, they may play a half. Game three, depending on the team, plays a half to three quarters. Game four, they don't play at all. Okay? Now it's a bunch of guys that are fighting for a job. All right? And in some cases, you've got some fringe former starters. Like, do you think Adrian Peterson really should be playing much in that fourth preseason game? Well, let's just say you're not going to get Kamara out there. So let's say you're going to have Marcus Murphy, and I think we signed an undrafted running back.
Yes.
After the draft, we have him and Tavares Cadet all playing in that fourth preseason game, because you're not going to play your three best backs. You're not going to play Ingram, Peterson, or Kamara. So, I mean, for some of those teams, they may not have the luxury of having that many running backs because you've made your cuts.
Yeah.
A guy like Murphy would have been cut after the third preseason game, and if they have injuries, a guy, you may have cut somebody you didn't really want to cut because of the injury issue, and now you've got to make a decision for one preseason game. You got to have enough guys to play this meaningless game. It's a lot easier for them to do a true evaluation with rotating a lot of players out there. That those guys in that first cut after that third preseason game have one more shot to make one last impression. That's just how I see it.
Let me ask you this. I used this analogy earlier today, and when I did, I was looked at like kind of like I let one slip at the punch bowl.
Did you just mix metaphors there?
Yes, I use vague metaphor to try to not
something floated in a punch bowl and letting one slip out. I got you. All right.
There we go. Okay. Now that we're on the same page, the owners are not going to let go of a revenue sharing opportunity / for that fourth preseason game, if that makes any sense. That being said, what you do is you enact this deal right here, the the limitations and the roster cuts being regulated this way as such. Is that a fair assessment?
I guess. Listen, here's the thing you have to keep in mind. This goes back to our conversation we had earlier. From 1960, I think it is, to 1978, we had a 14-game season. Yeah, I think the AFL started with 14 games. Anyway, we had a 14-game season. During that time, in the 60s and the early 70s, you had 6 preseason games. Good Lord, can you imagine having to sit through 6 preseason games? They were called exhibition games back then. You had 6 of those. So in 78, when they expanded to 16 games, that's where the 2 games came from. They took them out of the preseason, just made them regular season games. So if we go to an 18-game schedule, you're going to find that we're going to go from 4 preseason games to 2 preseason games. So these roster move cuts, changing the dates like that, so it's just one cut, that's just one step from going to that whole 18-game regular season schedule. They're just going to make it a lot easier by saying, well, look, we've already eliminated the second cut. You only have one cut anyway, so we have a preseason game. At that preseason game, you have one more preseason game, then you have all the cuts. Instead of having a preseason game, cut, preseason game, final roster, you have 2 preseason games. There's all the cuts. That's
I don't think
feeling.
I don't think that it really makes that big a difference. It does, but it doesn't, and I think the doesn't outweighs the does by a long shot. These coaches know, for the most part, okay, you got to have a 50-man roster. When they come down to the point of the first or second preseason game, 50-man roster, they're probably looking at the most 58, 59 players. There's going to be 4 or 5 maybe that are sitting on that as to whether they're here or not.
Yeah, because football is 24. I mean, it's a full-time job now. It's not like how it was, even back when Archie Manning, and even back when Bobby Abe was playing. There is no technical off season anymore. I mean, you've got a break after the regular season ends, and you didn't go to the playoffs. You got a break there, and you got a little bit of a break between the Pro Bowl and NFL draft. Then you got mini camps and OTAs, and even though the OTAs are voluntary, everyone shows up. So you'd still get in shape, and you're supposed to stay in shape anyway now. There's no more selling cars for Royal Oldsmobile like Archie Manning used to do. There's none of that going on anymore. I mean, that's your job. So you're staying in shape, and then you have that break for about 3 weeks between the end of OTAs and mini camp and regular training camp. Guys aren't getting into shape at training camp. They show up in shape, which is the big thing I always have, this ridiculous assertion that the Greenbrier made guys soft and all the other things. It's like, no, it didn't. I mean, these guys aren't going to training camp to get in shape. They are in shape already. Whether or not they train at the Greenbrier versus Metairie, if it's too hot in Metairie, they go inside the indoor facility. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's not like how it was when Bobby Hebert talks about going to training camp in Hammond, and they went out there to that practice field every day, and 2-a-days, or Hank Stram had them run 3-a-days. You don't have that kind of stuff anymore. They're not allowed that kind of stuff anymore. You have only so many days you can use where they can even wear pads. So it's up to the player now to get himself into shape and stay in shape all year long, because if he shows up out of shape to camp, he's gone. There's none of this whole, yeah, practicing that heat toughens you up. You get used to the heat. You don't get used to the heat. That's a load of crap. I mean, it really is. You all get hot.
Somebody asked me the other day, what was it like to go through fall practices in the state of Louisiana?
Well, first off, there's no such thing as fall practice. It's summer practice.
Yeah. And I was like, you just did it. I mean, the calendar rolled around, you saw it was the time for this, and they did it. You didn't really think about how hot it was. You didn't really think about how humid it was. You did what you had to do to play the game. And I think that translates over in a big way to the professional level. These guys are paid an exorbitant amount of money to do their job, and their job is to go out there and to do this. Whether they're at the Greenbrier, whether they're at Airline Drive, I don't really see in the asinine suggestion of curse, so on and so. I don't believe in that garbage. I believe in what you can show me on paper, and what people show me on paper is 3 consecutive seasons of 7-9 results.
You're 7-9 because you don't have enough good football players. You're not 7-9 because you practice at the Greenbrier. You're not 7-9 because your players are soft. You're 7-9 because you don't have enough good players who can make plays. That's just the reality. I mean, the Saints practice at La Crosse, Wisconsin. The first half of the time they were there in the Jim Moore, they were very good. After the Dome Patrol retired and those guys started to, you started having to get replacements for those players. And the offense, you're trying to transition to a different kind of offense. You're not winning football games anymore. Mike Ditka he's up in La Crosse. He was not a good coach in La Crosse. It's just this idea that, the Heat made you a better team. John Meekham's team used to train at Vero Beach in Florida, where the Dodgers used to have their training camp.
Yeah.
You can't get much hotter than South Florida. None of those teams were any good. So it's just this whole idea of the heat makes you tougher, the heat conditions you better. That's just ridiculous. It's a bunch of nonsense. Playing in temperatures when you're young, when you're trying to learn the offense, it allows you not to be thinking about so much like, I'm sweating my ass off. How much weight have I lost standing out here? I can't wait to get freaking practice over with because I'm dying. You're more focused. You're paying attention a lot more. The 49ers practice at Napa Vineyard. That's where they practiced in the 80s. They had catered food come in by the top chefs in California. The DeBartolos didn't hesitate to spend money on that team. They had the first team to have not only a private plane that they flew on, but also, had all the extras on there. The hotel rooms when they were on the road had all the little extra flares. Those teams were damn good. I mean, ask Jim Moore about it. We were 2-11 against the 49ers in the 90s. Horrible against the 49ers. They won 4 Super Bowls doing that kind of stuff. So, that's just a bunch of nonsense by people who look at football from NFL films era and see things the way it used to be and kind of romanticize those images of, Dick Buck is sitting there with the bloody fingers, holding his hand holding his hands like this on the sideline with the snow coming down, and you see the guys fighting through piles of snow and then hitting people and knocking helmets off. Jack Tatum, the assassin, hitting Sammy White in Super Bowl 11, where his helmet goes this way and his chin strap goes that way, and he falls to the ground unconscious. And Jack Tatum stands up and just does like this, like, you're done. I mean, yeah, it's dramatic. Wyatt Tittle sitting on a field, broken and bloody, with the blood coming down his head, because they knocked his helmet off when they sacked him. Because that's how defeated the Giants were. It makes for great cinema. It makes for great drama. But the fact is, in today's world, all of them play like that. All of them, no matter what team you go to, they all play. They're all in shape, and they're all focused, and they're the best of the best playing out there. So that's my little spiel.
I agree completely. It almost sounds as if that needed to be said by Ed Sable.
Oh yeah, I had the NFL Films music on CD. I still have that.
Excuse me, John Facenda.
John Facenda, yes, John Facenda. I'm going to be one of these people. If God does not talk to me in John Facenda's voice, I'm going to be disappointed. I want to hear John. I want to hear that booming voice.
Yes.
The frozen tundra.
John Facenda. Yeah.
Anyway,
which they claim he never said. But I could have sworn he said it, because I can picture when he said it. Jethro Pugh is kicking the ice, and it's the ice bowl. He's kicking the ice, trying to get his footage. It's right before Bart Starr runs the sneak, and it's it was, the line was Jethro Pugh tries to find footing on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. I could swear that's exactly the phrase that was used, because I used to watch so much NFL films when ESPN was worth watching. Anyway, we got one more thing to talk about. Speaking of the glory days, yeah. Huh? What's that?
That's when Steve's talking about the glory days of NFL films. So I was just saying that was
Sable's the one that swears. Yeah, he swears it was never said, but I could swear it was. But that's just me. Anyway.
Well, he's an idiot. Anyway.
But he would know. He would know. He worked with him.
Well, I would trust you before I would Steve Sable. What can I say?
Steve Sable had my dream job.
As of today, the New Orleans Saints announced their 2017 Hall of Fame class.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to set the record straight. You had 2 people added to the Hall of Fame. You had 1 winner of the Fleur-de-Lis Award. You did not have 3 people added to the Hall of Fame. I just want to set that record straight, because I've seen this on Twitter back and forth, and there was not 3 people added to the Hall of Fame. There was 2. Offensive guard Carl Nix and linebacker.
Go ahead, keep going. I'm just doing my NFL film music. Yeah, that's just my NFL Films music sound.
Okay, well, I didn't recognize it.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun.
Offensive guard Carl Nix and linebacker Jonathan Vilma have been added to the much deserved honor. Absolutely, have been added to the roster of the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame. As I said, I wanted to get this right. The administrative director, Jay Romig, 41 years with the team, was given the Fleur-de-Lis Award.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You're not from New Orleans, so you don't know who this man is. Joe Gemelli used to own a clothing store in New Orleans in the 60s and 70s.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
The Romick guy, he is somehow connected / related to the guy that used to do the play-by-play, correct?
That's his son, one of his sons, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I got a picture up here on his wall of the 79 Saints, and there he is right there in the side. He was hired as an assistant during the Hank Stram era. That was when he came aboard, either Hank Stram or he may have been 76. So 41 years there, 76. He came with Hank Stram, and he started out as a lowly assistant, young kid, and he kind of did a little bit of everything. And what I was going to say, Joe Gemelli, clothing store operator back in the 60s and the 70s, and he sponsored a lot of Saints things, including what the hell was it called again? It was the Meet the Saints luncheon. That's what it was. And that's how this award, it was designed to represent or be given to someone who went above and beyond representing the Saints, and it wasn't a player or a coach or anything like that. So, you've got people like Jim Henderson, I think, has gotten it. I know Wayne Mack got it. People like that, guys who used to do play-by-play for the Saints on the radio. And Jay Romick is another one who got it. I think his dad got one too. But that's why it was named after Joe Gemelli after he passed away. If you go to the Italian restaurant in Pastado's, they've got pictures of Saint stuff all over the place, because back in the day, again, that was the place where Saints players went to go eat. That's a restaurant in Metairie, Italian restaurant in Metairie. Oakland Heart used to be really big. When Buddy Delaberto used to do a show from the press box, he'd always give his stuff to his jewelry to the player guests from Oakland Heart. And I think Oakland Heart, the owner of Oakland Heart, is now the grandson, I think, owns it. I think he got a Joe Gemelli Fleur-de-Lis Award too. So there's all kinds of people who've gotten it. But Nix and Vilma are the first two quote unquote modern era players to be inducted to the Hall of Fame, because most of the people who've been inducted recently have been guys from the relatively distant past. I mean, Jim Moore era was over 25 years ago now. So, when Dalton Hayard when Dalton Hayard,
correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry to interrupt. Correct me if I'm wrong. They're the first players from the 2009 Super Bowl championship team to be in.
Yes.
Okay.
First ones.
I thought so.
Yep. And it's really odd, because I can tell I'm getting old. I can remember when they drafted 2008. That wasn't that long ago. I can remember when Jonathan Vilma was coming out of the University of Miami. I wanted the Saints to draft him.
Yeah. It was
him and DJ Williams coming out of Miami. And I said the Saints had to get one of those two. And both of them went off the board before the Saints could pick. But yeah, I mean, so we're talking about.
And we ended up with him after the Jets got through.
The Jets. Talent. Yep. Well, but I mean, I would not be surprised. I think Will Smith has been inducted, or maybe is going to be inducted. I'm not sure. I have to go back and look at my Saints Hall of Fame.
If I remember correctly, the plan was that he was supposed to be added to the either the Hall of Fame or the Ring of Honor or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at my
when he died.
My roster of Saints Hall of Fame members. Because here's the thing too. Not a lot of fans know this. Only two NFL teams have Hall of Fames. One is the Green Bay Packers. Nobody else has one. The Cowboys don't have one. The Steelers don't have one. The Raiders don't have one. If you think about all the great players who've just gone through those three organizations alone, at the Saints, and I know, I can't think of the curator now for the.
Ken
I can picture him. Ken Trahan, thank you. Ken Trahan used to be on Channel 26 and used to do the Zephyrs games and stuff like that. But Ken Trahan used to talk about the fact that the Saints had a Hall of Fame, and people would come in there just out of curiosity, like, what on earth the least most successful franchise in sports? This is before the Peyton era, Peyton Breeze era. But they go, what kind of Hall of Fame is this? What do you celebrate? How bad they were? Well, actually, you kind of do. I mean, you've got the 1980s team that has its own section. It's unique because you recognize, and again, this is what we were talking about off the air, the love for nostalgia. When I've gone to the Hall of Fame with my kids, I'm like, I see just like that from when we sat at Tulane Stadium. It was one of those fold-out seats you screw on in the back of the to the bleacher, and you sat there. They got bleachers from Tulane Stadium there. I've been putting up highlight films from between the New Orleans Saints Facebook page and a Facebook page called Saints Yesteryear of things I found, the NFL films, highlight films. But you go back and you kind of relive, man. Yeah, the Saints stunk, but good God, Tommy Myers is a good safety. Or John Hill really was a great safety. Or I really loved watching Wes Chandler play, those kind of things. I mean, it was just it's fun to watch.
Alan, I've maintained for the longest time, and quite possibly it may be the fact that I'm a New Orleans Saints fan that precipitates this, but if you have to wait for a Lombardi trophy to show your pride in your team, you don't have much pride in your team.
Well, it's true. I mean, hell, I'm one of these guys that used to put pictures of Saints players, and they make fun of me. One of my old jobs I had pictures of the Saints players covering my walls. Okay, because when I got the internet, that's one of the first sites I went to, was look to see if they got a Saints site, and I started looking at trying to find old pictures and stuff like that. That's before YouTube and all the rest of that stuff. Back when you had dial-up. Anyway,
had what?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't know the struggle of AOL dial-up. And somebody picks up the phone and tries to use it, and it disconnects you. And you're like, damn! I was on a message board. And me, I'm writing something. I don't write like a couple of sentences. I'm writing a dissertation. I'm just going. And somebody picks up the phone, and all of a sudden your connection's been lost. Yeah. God. Yeah, the old days. Anyway, so I would put these pictures all over the wall, and they're looking at it, it's like, really? You got these pictures of these bums on the wall? I'm like, you know what? One day they're going to be winners, and they're going to win the championship, and you guys can be like, yeah, I'm a Saints fan now. Well, hey, I represented. My kids are dying right now. In fact, I just did that. I did it when they stunk. I have a poster. I actually have a poster from 1999. It says "Run, Ricky, Run," and it's got a picture of Ricky Williams in the middle. Billy Joe Hobart's on it. I think Andre Hastings is on it. There's a couple other players. Toby Gowen and Doug Bryan on it. So you got kickers on there. So you're in trouble. You got pictures of those kind of players. I have to go look. It's in my attic in a box. But yeah, I mean, I had all that stuff, and I was like, one day the people are going to recognize the Saints are going to, and you know what? With them, I didn't care. I was going to support them, even though they were losing and they stunk. I still supported them. So,
there's always the running debate and consternation with quote unquote bandwagon fans, and I've never quite understood that whole concept. But I will say this: I can vaguely remember, and I shared this memory with someone earlier this week. I can vaguely remember being in that room in my great-grandmother's home, gathered around the TV set, the only TV in the house, mind you, watching this new guy the New Orleans Saints football team had drafted, named Archie Manning. He was a quarterback. He was going to be the savior of this team. And, you know, as I look back on it now, it's kind of comical and kind of funny, so to speak. But at the same time, it's a testament.
Mm-hmm.
A fan of this team, if you're really, I mean, from that era, basically, long story short, the guys or people, from that era that were fans sat back and they said, "This is the guy," and that was I want to say 71.
Mm-hmm. 71.
Okay, that was 71, and you fast forward a decade, 81. Those same people were sitting there saying, "Just any minute now, Archie's going to get his break, going to take this team to the promised land." That's what being a supporter of this team is all about. That's what being a supporter of any team is all about. It's not about the guys in those jerseys. It's about the undying, unquestionable belief that it's coming. Sooner or later, all of this faith, all of these tears, all of this blood, all of this is going to pay off monumentally.
It's why, to this day, my favorite radio call is got to be Hakeem drops the ball, because that was your first reward for all that patience. Because, you know, first off, the Saints never got to the playoffs. And when they got to the playoffs, they were always one and done. They could never win, no matter how good you won 12 games. And you still went one and done in the playoffs. You hosted the playoff game, and you still went one and done. So you never had that feeling of true victory. And then in 2000, Hakeem drops the ball. I mean, that was just a perfect Saints kind of ending for a game. You know, the other team makes a mistake, and, you know, Jim Henderson's voice cracks. You know, we all go crazy. And we just won a playoff game. That was it. But it was like this enormous burden was lifted. And then in 2006, you finally get to the NFC Championship game. You're one game away from the Super Bowl, and you lose. And, of course, in that game against the Bears, I got so mad. I went outside and punched my shed door, you know, because I couldn't hit anything else in the house. You know, so I go outside and punch his shed door, you know. But, I mean, because you felt like we'll never win. We will never win it all. So you win a Super Bowl in 2009. In 2011, that's your chance for a two-peat. And it bothers me more now than it bothered me when it happened. My wife said, "You're surprisingly calm for losing that game." And I said, "You know what? We won one already. We're going to be back." I didn't know about Bountygate, about the break, but my feeling at the time was, we're going to be back. We'll finish. You know, this team is too good. They're not done. We're going to be back, and we will win, because
I can remember the overwhelming feeling at the time was leading up to that first Super Bowl. I told people I'd give it if ever win another one, we got here for one. That's all that matters to me. If we never even get there
that's
again,
the other thing.
If we never get there again, we got there for this one. And I can remember you fast forward 12 months later, and I'm like,
well, yeah, that loss bothers me more now than it did when it happened, because that feeling, that seems like that was the window was shut after that. You weren't going to go back and win again, because in 2013, I did not feel like that team was a Super Bowl team. I felt the way I felt in 2010. I felt like, yeah, we're going to go to the playoffs, and if we get a couple of bounces, we might make it to the conference championship, but they're not good enough. They got handled by Dallas that year. They got handled by the Seahawks that year.
Yeah.
So I did not have a good feeling. I wanted to upset the Seahawks, but I did not have that feeling like in 2011 and certainly in 2009 when you're going, oh, yeah, we got this shit. We're rolling. We're going to Pete. If we get to play the Packers, we're going to win this time. If we got to play the Giants, we would have killed them. I mean, that's the feeling you had because that offense was unstoppable.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, and I've made no two ways about this. I've always been that person that if you're going to make the wild card round of the playoffs, if you're not in it, if you don't have the team to win the whole thing, don't even bother. Just stay home.
That's the key. You cannot play that wild card round. You have to get that first or second seed. You have to get that bye. Because playing only 2 games to go to the Super Bowl versus 3, that's a world of difference. And
I completely agree with that.
And my feeling is if you're going to be a Super Bowl team, and this is going to now the 2017 Saints, if they're going to be a Super Bowl team, they got to come out and just start rolling people early. And not just go 5-0 and then lose and don't win or go 500 the rest of the way or whatever it is. You've got to come out like that 2011 team did, like that 2009 team did. Even though you lost that first game against the Packers, you were there right to the end. You were in that last play of the game was really going to be, well, you needed to get a 2-point conversion, but you were right there at the goal line. It was the right call. It just didn't happen. But yeah, you have to have that feeling that we can score anytime we want to, and we will score anytime we want to. And our defense will get enough turnovers that they're going to make a difference. If this team can do what that team did, like in 2009, 2011, then that's the feeling I get. We can score on anybody. We can beat anybody, anytime, anywhere. That's just an incredible feeling to have, and that's what you need to have happen to this team. I don't know if it's there or not. I hope it is. We'll find out.
Time will tell.
Well, you didn't expect them to. If this was 2009, the off season before the 2009 season, I promise you, people didn't feel that way. I promise you, they didn't. Well, it was that third preseason game. You played the Raiders. You kicked the crap out of the Raiders. You're like, you know what? This team could do something. Because you didn't just beat them. You beat the crap out of them. You threw Jamarcus Russell around like a rag doll. That defense came out and kicked somebody's ass, and that offense could score at will. And, yeah, it was against the Raiders, but still, you felt like, hey, there's something going on here. Then you came out that opening game and beat the shit out of Matthew Stafford. You just started rolling. And each game, you got better and better,
I think that I take a lot of heat for this from time to time, but in the grand picture, grand scheme of things, this entire past 2016 season, not necessarily out in the grand release, but to certain few people that I'm close to, I kept telling over the course of the season, look, this team is close. This team is really close. And I feel justified in having made that assessment now because you look back on the scope of the entire 2016 season, you had 9 losses, sure. And let me stop right here and say this was every bit of a 7-9 team. It absolutely deserved the record that it wound up finishing the season with. But
you know what your record says you are.
Absolutely, and I've never made two points about that. I absolutely and 100% agree with that. You absolutely are what your record says that you are. But at the same time, of those 9 losses over the course of the 2016 season, 7 of those losses were by a touchdown or less. And it's the same tired old argument that I've made ad nauseum over the entire off season. That's one more possession, one less turnover, one more turnover as a defense, one more takeaway, one less giveaway, one less penalty, so on and so forth. This team is close, and I really truly believe that this team is close enough that the addition of an Adrian Peterson and Alex Okafor, and you can just kind of fill in those blanks, the addition of these free agent acquisitions that we've made can make a difference to take us to that level that we're wanting to attain.
You know, here's the key. I mean, I've told you this many times. It's turnovers. You know, you have to win the turnover battle. You have to be heavy on the plus side because your offense should be good enough that you're going to win, or you will be in almost any game you play. If your defense can steal possessions by getting turnovers, you take away a points opportunity from one team, from the opponent, but you also give your offense one more chance to score. And if that's what happens, I don't care where we're ranked defensively. I don't care how much yardage we give up. I care about how many points we give up, and I care about our turnover ratio, giveaway, takeaway. If we're double digits on the takeaways versus the giveaways, we're winning a championship with that kind of team. We're winning a championship with that kind of defense. I know 30 to 40 sacks. I think 40 sacks is something that Ralph Marlborough talks a lot about. My statistic will be turnover margin. You've got to get turnovers. You've got to force turnovers. If you can force turnovers, that's the difference. Because that's how Atlanta did it. Atlanta had a high-power offense. Their defense was not that good, but they got turnovers. They did get sacks, but they got turnovers. And they would jump on teams early and then try and ride out the rest of the game. But the big thing is they got the turnovers.
And I don't think you have to go to Atlanta for that proof. You just look back at the 2009 New Orleans Saints team.
9 defensive touchdowns.
You can think what you want to of the guy now, but if the New Orleans Saints did not have Darren Sharper and the contribution that he made, the plays that he made, the points that he made,
absolutely.
If Darren Sharper wasn't a part of that Super Bowl run was never made.
Right. Well, I've said it many times.
You can think of what you can think what you want to of him now, and he probably I'm
just going to talk. It's only about what he did. Yeah, it's only about what he did on the field. I'm not going to talk about what he did off the field. I'm not going to justify that. But what's the difference between the San Francisco divisional playoff game versus, say, the NFC Championship game or the Super Bowl? Roman Harper did not have a Tracy. Well, no, I'm talking about Tracy Porter too. Roman Harper did not have a Tracy Porter moment. Imagine what would have happened if instead of that touchdown too, and it kills me to think about this because I do think about this, but imagine if Roman Harper just breaks that ball a second earlier and picks off that pass on the goal line instead of the great the catch three, they call it, because of what Vernon Davis did, and you go back to the 49ers history, imagine it's an interception by Roman Harper right there to end the game. Because basically the Saints get the ball. Let's just say they run a couple of running plays, get out of the goal line, or if it's a touchback, they take a knee 3 times. That game's over. You're hosting the Giants in the Dome, who you kicked the crap out of on a Sunday night earlier that season. That's how you think. That's how I think, though. I think about that. Like, Harper just gets in front of that ball and makes it. But that's the difference. You got a turnover. You turn the ball over 5 times, and that's 49ers game. But you get that one critical turnover at the end of the game, and you win the game. Because your offense was good enough to score the game-winning touchdown twice. Once by Sproles and once by Graham. It's just our defense could not get that turnover it needed to stop Alex Smith and the offense at last time. So anyway, wow, we're at 9:30 already. We really went on because we started talking about the old games and stuff. But that just shows you again how close we could be. Okay, so
absolutely,
we'll talk some more about this next week. Thank you guys for sticking with us for this extra time that we did. We never go our full hour anymore. Now we're always an hour and a half over. But thank you for listening to our rambling. I'm looking forward.
You guys are absolutely worth the extra content.
That's right. I'm looking forward to John Butler's What I Learned on Under the Dome tomorrow. That should be entertaining.
Yeah, man. It absolutely is. And John, if you're listening, I didn't say anything about anybody getting hurt tonight, so I hope you take that into consideration when you evaluate the 3 things that you learned from the show tonight.
I talked about paraplegics having a pillow fight. That's what I talked about.
It's all on the guy with a big head.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay, guys. Thank you all for paying attention, joining the show, and we'll be back next week for another exciting episode of Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.